The topic of the workshop is how we make entertainment content more disabled friendly. I'm really delighted that we will be joined by domain experts who can give us concrete inputs on what we can do to make more media content disabled friendly. Um, for persons with disabilities, and I come at this from a disability lens as a blind person myself. Although this accessibility is a much broader concept that just doesn't only cover the disabled. But from the standpoint of persons with disabilities in India, we are all too accustomed to not having meaningful access to entertainment content. As a blind person, I often go to theaters and don't really have access to the kind of viewing experience that my able-bodied or sighted counterparts do, because audio description isn't the norm in India when it comes to movies. It's sort of provided only on in rare and exceptional circumstances for the odd movie, and that too, I've never seen a single movie which was released in India in a theater with audio description. Nowadays, with Netflix and a little bit with Amazon Prime, some content is being audio described, but it still remains in the minority such content. So we really need, and now the RPWD Act, and we will hear more on this from our panelists, makes a concerted push to ensure that more media content is audio described and subtitled. So we do have legal backing for the notion that more media content needs to be made more disabled friendly. But we need concerted action from policymakers, persons with disabilities, media houses, streaming platforms, studios, and others to really make this vision of having more content being disabled friendly entertainment content a reality. And that is what we will try to do through this workshop. Uh, this will be the first of many conversations. The idea is for us to interact once every quarter and not just to have a discussion in the air, but actually to identify concrete action items and next steps that can be implemented within the period between two workshops in terms of policy reforms, sensitizing service providers, creating a repository of best practices for different stakeholders on what we can do to make more entertainment content disabled friendly. In that spirit, I welcome you all to this conversation this evening. I will now hand it over. Just a word about the structure we will follow. We will have a panel discussion now on subtitling and making entertainment content more disabled friendly for the hearing impaired, followed by a panel discussion on audio description and looking at this issue from the standpoint of the visually impaired, followed by a presentation by Nirav Kumar Shah from the Billion Leaders Initiatives on accessibility standards that are currently being promulgated by the government. With that, I will hand it over to my colleague Pooja Pandey, who is a senior resident fellow at VIDI, who will conduct the first panel discussion.
Thanks, Rahul. First and foremost, thanks a lot for setting the context for us. I'm very happy to take it forward from here on. As Rahul was mentioning, hello everyone. First and foremost, we apologize for the slight delay in starting the event today. I am Pooja Pandey, and I'm a senior resident fellow with the education team at WIDI Center for Legal Policy. I will be moderating this very important and very interesting panel discussion today, where we'll be overall talking about making entertainment content more disabled friendly. As Rahul was briefly mentioning before as well, this panel discussion is the first panel discussion in the series of two panels that we have today itself. Here in this first panel, we'll primarily be talking about subtitling. Now, in subtitling, we'd want to understand from the experts why is it important in the first place. Then we'd also want to understand with the experts and the panelists that how can we increase the uptake of subtitling in the entertainment industry? And lastly, we'd touch a little bit upon like what are some of the legal and policy measures to ensure that it actually happens. As Rahul was also mentioning earlier, the panelists today, of course, come with diverse backgrounds and rich experiences in this arena, and they'll be sharing their insights on this important topic. I think this also gives a very good segue to introduce the esteemed panelists for today's discussion who have joined us today. First, we have with us Surbhi Yadav, who is the co-leader at the Billion Readers Initiative, which is also called BIRD, and that's the acronym we'll be using throughout the day today. We are also hopefully going to be joined by Mr. A.S. Narayanan, who is the Secretary of the National Association of the Deaf. A very warm welcome to all the panelists that we have here. Now, before I officially jump into the panel discussion and the very interesting topics that we have planned for you, I'd like to run the audience with a couple of important housekeeping points for the day. We are happy to be joined by Preeti as well as Atul, who will be helping us with sign language interpretation throughout the event. A very warm welcome to Preeti and Atul, and thanks for helping us out with this. Now, in terms of the structure, our objective will be to have an engaged discussion with the panelists for the first 25 to 30 minutes of the discussion. And after that, we'd like to move to the question and answer segment, where we like the panelists to engage with the audience as well. I'll highly encourage all our audience to please keep typing your questions in the chat box, because it will ensure like a smoother discussion towards the end of the discussion. I'd also like to let you all know that we are live streaming this event on Vidhi's YouTube channel, so it's also available there at this moment. Now, without any further ado, I would really like to jump straight into the discussion, and I'd like to start with Surbhi in the first place. Now, Surbhi, for you, I have a very basic question, in fact, which I think a lot of us will be interested in knowing generally as well. Can you please tell us a little about subtitling itself, and including same language subtitling, and why should we emphasize or stress upon subtitling at all? I pass it on to you now.
Yeah. Well, hello everyone, and really nice of Vidhi to actually arrange this space. We need a lot more conversation on this topic. What is subtitling? Subtitling is any text that appears on the bottom of your screen. So it could be your TV screen, it could be your mobile screen, right? Any content that you're watching, any text that appears on the bottom. Often this is a translation, sometimes it's transliteration, and sometimes it's additional content. Like on the news channels, you can see a lot of text goes by which is not necessarily connected to the audio of the speaker. What does Billion Readers or BIRD do in the context of subtitling? Billion Readers actually began as a research project in IIM Ahmedabad in 1999 by Professor Brij Kothari, and it was essentially about same language subtitling. What does that mean? Whatever is the audio of the video, the text is going to appear in the same way. So if someone is watching a video in, let's say, Gujarati, the text is going to appear in Gujarati. I do want to show a clip because it usually sets up the context really well. So I'm just going to share my screen and give an idea in just 30 seconds what same language subtitling is. And this video doesn't have audio description. It's primarily an accessibility tool for deaf and hard of hearing. So I'm just going to show a video of a song.
జాతి గొప్పతనం తెలుసుకున్న వాళ్ళకి తెలుగే ఒక
as you saw, if the song was in Hindi, the audio was transliterated in Hindi on the bottom of the screen. If it was in Tamil, the same thing happened. That is same language subtitling. And the power of same language subtitling is it's a beautiful tool for accessibility, especially for deaf and hard of hearing. But at the same time, it's also a wonderful tool for improving reading literacy, because as you're looking at the screen, your eyes and your brain are exposed to multiple words at the same time. So I'm going to stop at that it can be a widely used tool for accessibility and improving reading literacy.
Great. Thanks a lot. Just sorry for the slight interruption here. Rahul, do you have any context, or do you know if Mr. Narayanan would be joining us?
No, I have emailed him, so he should be able to. In his absence, I think Nirav can participate with Surabhi if he's comfortable. Nirav, are you there?
Yeah, hi. Can you all hear me?
Yes, Nirav.
Yes,
Hi,
yes,
hi.
great.
Welcome to the
Hi.
discussion. You've just joined, so it's important for me to introduce you as well. So we are also joined today by Nirav Kumar Shah, who is the CEO with the Bird Initiative as well as Planet Read. A warm welcome to the discussion, Nirav. So if I may, you've just jumped into the discussion. I'm very sorry to be posing question right when you've jumped. So Surabhi has explained very well about what same language subtitling is, and what is the importance of same language subtitling. Just in extension to that, how do you think this can be very beneficial for the entertainment industry, or how can we increase the uptake amongst the entertainment industry for SLS or something like that? If I can have your opinions.
Right. So a good question. So thank you. Now, primarily the entertainment industry, that is the different channels which are there, are looking at this as an additional cost, adding SLS or closed captioning. They are looking at it as something more, and they are looking at it in a very limited manner. It's only for 5 to 10% of the population, right? The hearing impaired community. We are telling them that, listen, yes, they will benefit directly, and we are doing it with that lens, but then it's useful for also those who can hear properly, but who are weak readers, right? And it's also useful for those who are basically good readers, but who now, because of old age, cannot hear properly. So it's actually useful for a whole gamut of people. And if you were to look at it, roughly 70 to 80% of the viewers will benefit in some way or the other. Or you are looking at it at home and everyone is talking over each other. So it becomes useful for you, but then you can still follow the content that is happening there, because even if you can't hear, you can read what's happening, right? Which is the reality at Indian homes, that you have 5-6 people watching together and talking at the same time. So we are trying to expand the lens and tell that, listen, it's useful for all of these reasons. And now coming to the point about money, is it actually that expensive? So firstly, we can divide all the content into two parts. One is new content that you will develop from today onwards, and existing content. For new content, it is very straightforward. For every single production, be it serials, television, movies, for all of that, you always have a script. It's based on the script that artists will tell their parts, right? If you maintain that script, converting from script to same language subtitling or to closed captioning is very straightforward, and there is hardly any cost to it. So you can say it's nearly free for new content. For older content, yes, there is a certain amount of cost which is there, or existing content. But that cost also, even if you were to just give a half-an-hour episode and give it out in the market, they would do it in the range of about 15 to 20,000 for adding same language subtitling. But we are saying it can be reduced drastically. All you have to do is harness the power of AI. And that is where Bird comes in. We are working closely with the industry, and we are saying, give us 1,000 hours of your content, and we will basically create an AI module for you. And the more you land up using it, the smarter it will get. Today, it is in the range of about 70%. we are confident by getting about 1,000 to 2,000 hours, we can bring it to 80-85% plus. And this way, the industry, both the excuses they have, one in terms of it'll affect our viewership, and second in terms of cost, can be done.
Great. Yeah. Very interesting, actually. And it got me thinking about, like, from your responses itself, I can already see some emerging challenges, but at the same time, some emerging opportunities as well. And this is a question for both Surbhi and Neerav. Whoever wants to take it can take it. I'm assuming that you have also had the chance to work with a lot of these, like, media industry, television platforms, and other. So what has been the kind of uptake or the experience working with them by far? And also, has it also been extended to maybe streaming platforms or even third-party video platforms, which are growing really big these days? So, if you can, it will be very interesting for our audience as well to understand what has been your experience of convincing these platforms to, take same language subtitling or subtitling in general as well. Anybody can take it up.
I think for the history part, I'll let Neerav go first, and then I can talk about the streaming and what will it take for industry to take it up. Neerav, do you want to talk about how much Bird has already implemented, especially Rangoli and everything?
Yeah. So, so basically, we have been vying for this. We have been telling the government that it's a good idea for literacy and for accessibility for a very long time, for more than 20 years. And we ourselves have subtitled over 2,000 hours of content in multiple different languages. Most of the content is basically song-based programming, and like the sample that Surbhi showed. And what we are very confident is that if the industry wants to do it, they can do it. Everything else is actually a little bit of an excuse. In terms of technology, we have it here. There are no technology barriers. In terms of cost, if they put their mind to it, it's actually a very minuscule cost. A half an hour serial at the minimum would cost about 10 lakhs. Subtitling, even if you take at market rate, is about 10, 15,000, right? So the costs are very, very minuscule. The industry should just want to do it. And I think from the government side, they have come out with a policy. I'll be talking about it in the third session. The policy is extremely good. The government, of course, it can get better. And we were part of the core committee to suggest improvements on that. From the government's end, if they could promulgate it and bring it out there, then it basically becomes a right. Like, anyone can say, why is my content not subtitled? I want it with SLS. I want it with closed captioning. Right now, it's only a policy and it's not been promulgated. So that one step is required by the government. And once they do that, the industry will come on board. It's not like the industry is not doing anything. Today, we have about 2% of the content. All the major channels, Star TV, Sony, Z, they are doing, but they are paying lip service to SLS and same language subtitling. And in terms of ISL, there is no one doing it. There is absolutely nothing with sign language. So there is a long way to go, but we have done it for many years. We know that all the hurdles can be easily overcome with the help of technology, the will, and a little bit of directive from the government. Surbhi?
Yeah, actually, if there is a mandate, right, like the government is saying that, at least a certain section of your content should be accessible to people, and there are different tools of accessibility: audio description, ISL, and same language subtitling. The thing about same language subtitling is it actually is a low hanging fruit if the industry wants to take on and use that for accessibility. Because if you think about it, we actually have dearth of ISL interpreters in the country, right? Audio description is slightly more cost like expensive, or slightly more wanting an advanced technology than subtitling or same language subtitling. So what Neerav was hinting towards is that one is the matter of willingness, that it is an exciting opportunity to actually make your content more and more accessible to wider audience. And I think right now industry is missing the mark on seeing it as a wonderful opportunity, not just from just a social cause, but also as a strategic business decision, that it can actually taking your content to a wider audience. And I think that's the world that Billion Readers or Bird is imagining, that currently video means audio plus video. What it should be, audio video text. So AV should become AVT. And it's already happening. So in streaming platforms, for example, Amazon and Netflix, you would see that the viewers have a choice of subtitling in different languages, right? And there are some best practices emerging in the international market. You see it on Instagram, you see it on YouTube. It is becoming very, very common for an audio to have big, bold text going along with it. So the T part, AVT, is already happening when you see the international landscape. It's just the matter of willingness plus stepping out of a comfort zone, because it is a change. And I think usually when there is a mass level change, there is a slight internal resistance. What Neera was mentioning, that right now we have 2% of content that is media content that is SLS. It should have been 30% by now, and more actually. So yeah, the hope is when one or two big players pick it up enthusiastically, once they actually talk about benefits enthusiastically, both in terms of accessibility, in terms of reading literacy, I think it's going to become a trend. In any case, in near future, it is going to become a strong mandate. So one or the other.
Absolutely. Love the word low-hanging fruit here, because it definitely shows opportunity. I'd also like to take a moment to introduce a speaker who has joined us right now. We have with us Ms. Preeti Soni, who is the Women's Secretary of the National Association of the Deaf, and she will be here in place of Mr. Narayanan. A very warm welcome, ma'am. If I can ask you as well to contribute to this discussion today. So I would want to understand from you, from an advocacy point of view, in your understanding and in your experience, what kind of actors do we need to bring together to make this movement stronger, and what kind of representation do we need to make this movement stronger and go ahead and make this happen? Up to you. On to you, ma'am.
Yeah, thanks. I hope, Preeti, are you going? Yeah, okay, thanks. So it's clear. So yeah, I think my name is Preeti Soni, and I'm working as in NED as in voluntary. So yeah, for songs and movies and English subtitle is good, but we have seen many movies they are providing. But if we are downloading the apps, about what we need for that, for example, we require the sign language, because if we can add the sign language in this entertainment industry, subtitles, some people are like it, because some people are off the subtitle. They want to understand that particular entertainment which is going on over there. So if we will add some sign language part over there, so we can understand. So there are many OTT, for example, GTV and other things we have seen. So if we will add these things, hearing people, they can easily listen that entertainment part, what is going about movie and serial. What about us? We don't have access. So this is our language in sign language. If we can add this, then we will understand. For visual things also, I want to talk, if we can make like more visuals in entertainment industry. If I'll talk about history, history is also not visual. We just reading the things. If we will add the sign language, then that will be helpful for the deaf community. We are also paying the movies. We are also paying the DTH
even for the historical places. She is suggesting कि जब हम लोग historical places में जाते हैं घूमने वगैरह के लिए, देखने के लिए, तो वहां पे भी sign language का पूरा translation होना चाहिए. और जैसे टीवी वगैरह में भी रहता है कि चॉइसेस रहनी चाहिए, कि सिर्फ एक ऑडियो का मतलब सिर्फ कैप्शनिंग ना हो के उसके अंदर क्लोज कैप्शनिंग के साथ में एक जो साइन लैंग्वेज का इंटरप्रिटेशन रहेगा वो भी रहे. तो दिस इज ऑन आवर चॉइस कि हम लोग क्या देखना पसंद करेंगे, तो वो चॉइस हमें प्रोवाइड करनी चाहिए.
परफेक्ट.
और जैसे हम लोग पीवीआर वगैरह में जाते हैं एंटरटेनमेंट के लिए, मूवी देखने के लिए, तो वहां पे भी साइन लैंग्वेज का एक ऑप्शन रहना चाहिए. और बहुत बार ऐसा हुआ है कि हम पीवीआर में गए हैं मूवी देखने के लिए और वहां पे कहीं कैप्शनिंग तक अवेलेबल नहीं है, एंड शी इज जस्ट सजेस्टिंग कि अगर डेली बेसिस पे नहीं पॉसिबल है तो कि एटलीस्ट एक पर्टिकुलर डे फिक्स कर दे, मंडे टू संडे के बीच में आप कोई भी एक डे फिक्स कर दीजिए जिसमें कि साइन लैंग्वेज इंटरप्रिटेशन हो रही होगी इस मूवी की, या फिर कैप्शन हो रही होगी, क्योंकि हम लोग भी एग्जैक्टली उतना ही अमाउंट पे कर रहे हैं टिकट का जितना कि बाकी व्यूअर्स कर रहे हैं। तो वाई हम लोग को क्यों वो फैसिलिटी पूरी नहीं मिलती है? क्योंकि वो लोग जो हेयरिंग है या बाकी जो कम्युनिटी के लोग हैं वो लोग प्रॉपर्ली इसको देख पा रहे हैं, सुन पा रहे हैं, तो उसी तरह से वो सेम सर्विस हमें भी प्रोवाइड करनी चाहिए हमारी लैंग्वेज में।
Absolutely.
पार्लियामेंट और पार्लियामेंट के जितने सेशन होते हैं कि लोकसभा में क्या डिस्कशन हो रहा है, यहाँ तक कि हमें वो भी चीजें हमारे तक इंफॉर्मेशन नहीं पहुंच पाती है। तो स्पेशली इस तरह के पार्लियामेंट सेशंस में तो इंटरप्रिटेशन होनी ही चाहिए, क्योंकि बहुत सीरियस मैटर डिस्कशन रहते हैं। तो वी शुड नो कि क्या हमारे भारत में हो रहा है, क्योंकि वी आर आल्सो द सिटीजन ऑफ इंडिया। क्या रूल्स बनाए जा रहे हैं, क्या चीजें क्या चीजों को एक्सेप्ट किया जा रहा है, किन चीजों को अप्रूव किया जा रहा है, तो वो चीजों के बारे में भी हमें प्रॉपर और बराबर की नॉलेज मिलनी चाहिए, इंफॉर्मेशन मिलनी चाहिए।
Absolutely.
और सिर्फ यही नहीं, इसके अलावा जैसे जॉब एम्प्लॉयमेंट वगैरह का या कोई भी इंफॉर्मेशन मिलती है, बहुत सारे हेयरिंग लोगों के लिए इजी होता है कि इंफॉर्मेशन चलते फिरते कहीं से भी उनको इंफॉर्मेशन मिल जाती है इजीली। लेकिन डेफ लोगों को कितना सर्च करना पड़ता है इक्वेलिटी के लिए कि हमें सेम चीज सेम इंफॉर्मेशन हमें भी एक्सेस हो पाए, हमें भी मिल पाए, उसके लिए वी हैव टू डू एक्स्ट्रा एफर्ट्स। थैंक यू सो मच।
थैंक यू सो मच प्रीति मैम। जो आपने बोला वो बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट बातें थी, उसमें से कुछ चीजें जो बहुत अलग से निकल के आ रही हैं कि इक्वल कंज्यूमर, वो सब लोग इक्वल अमाउंट पे कर रहे हैं, तो दे शुड गेट equal right to access that kind of a content. Everybody should get it. So that's like a very powerful message that you're saying. Now, before I open it up to question and answer, we do have like 5 minutes to do that. I have the last question, maybe either of Neerav या सुरभि या even प्रीति मैम, जो भी, क्योंकि यहाँ पे हम बात करें लॉज एंड पॉलिसीज की भी, और लॉज एंड पॉलिसीज एज एन इम्पॉर्टेंट वे टू इंश्योर कि ये चीज इम्प्लीमेंट हो पाए. So how can that be possible? What kind of laws do we need? What kind of policies do we need? Neerav was mentioning a little bit before about the policy, and I'm sure in the subsequent discussion in the next panel, we are going to go into the details of it. But for the audience who is attending the session right now, if either of you can touch upon that aspect very quickly, that'll be great.
Yeah, Surbhi, I'll take that. Yeah. So basically, from the law aspect, I think Rahul would be a better person to say that, and I think Vidhi would be good. But what the little bit that I understand, I will like to say. I think we have a very good act in terms of Persons with Disabilities Act, right? Now, the policy which has been created under this act. And the point is exactly what Preeti ma'am was saying, that they have as much right, all the people with no matter what disability have as much right to entertainment as those who can hear and those who can see, right? And now the government has taken the first step. You have taken the first step, you have created a policy. A policy today is I would think at 80%. If it was implemented, the hearing impaired community would definitely benefit 80%. We have suggested, we were lucky enough to be called as special invitees around 3 months back when the policy was reviewed after 2 years, right? So the policy was passed in 2019, it was reviewed mid 2022, and we have given further ideas. I had spoken to some groups in the disability sector and got some very good inputs from Rahul and the rest. And we have put all of that ahead there. And now the government has been open to suggestions. Now we are only hoping the government takes all these suggestions, comes out with one, like, you can correct the policy but get it implemented, promulgate that, right? That is the last step. Unless you do that step, I think how will the benefits really trickle down to the users, right? The viewers who are there, they want to have this. And I'm sure, like Preeti, there are millions of people who are really wanting for this policy to get implemented. And we are saying it's high time. Like, you know, the act was passed in 2016, policy is in 2019, we are now in 2022. I mean, how much longer do we have to wait? I mean, the sooner it happens, the better it is. And we are saying it's not only for them. I mean, they are definitely going to benefit massively because they'll now be equal participants. But what about the millions of people who are semi-literate? We want to, like, you know, the moment you make this accessible, they will also become fluent readers, right? So it is equally helpful. So it's now really the last step that the government has to take, and we hope the sooner it happens, the better for all of us.
Absolutely. Thanks a lot for that, Neerav. Yeah,
Yeah,
please,
I'll
Surbhi.
add one point to it, and answering to that previous question as well, Pooja, that you asked about who all need to come together for this. So the policy talks about accessibility of content on TV, and what billion readers, along with disability right groups like NCPDP, NAD, and many other organizations, Vidhi. So there is a coalition and an alliance forming of allies who are saying this needs to also come on streaming platforms. So you know, there is, वो हम भारत में बोलते हैं ना कि एक नीति होती है, एक रीति होती है. तो नीति तो बन चुकी. For it to become a custom now, you need to bring these people who really understand the need of it and the advantage of it. So at this moment, I mean, this panel discussion is one part of it, right? Like bringing it out to the world that this is such an easy solution. Why are we not doing it yet? So this alliance is trying to reach out to government, billion readers on the other hand. So the alliance of the disability right groups, Vidhi included, NAD included, NCPDP included, is reaching out to the ministry, talking about the benefits in terms of accessibility. Billion readers on the other hand is generating evidence over and over on the effectiveness of SLS, both from accessibility point of view and reading literacy point of view. So there is solid studies which actually prove that this works.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's like bringing these allies together and putting
different
it forward.
allies with different strengths and advantages.
Exactly,
So that really makes
exactly.
a lot of difference.
Yeah.
Also, so we of course have very limited time for this overall panel discussion, and I'd like to give some time for the questions as well. So I'll now open it up to the audience if you want to ask any questions to our panelists. The floor is open to you now.
Pooja, if are there any questions, or else I would like to ask one.
You please, Rahul, go ahead. It's always the first person who has to ask the question, and then it just trickles down.
Yes, sure. So the question that I have is a very practical one. As I mentioned in the beginning, as in I can at least speak for audio description, that when you go to a movie theater, you don't really have any movies in India that are actually audio described. Number one, is that the case with subtitling also? I know that streaming platforms are doing something, but is it the case that in movie theaters, no content at all is subtitled? And number two, how can we practically get those studios that make these movies and theaters to release content that is subtitled? See, with audio description, one issue that I think can come is that them saying that so I did this when I used to live in Oxford. I went for a movie that was audio described. There they gave me a pair of earphones that I just had to put in, and I could sort of access the experience on my own without disrupting that for other sighted people. So I think for audio description, you can definitely do it like that, that you give earphones to whoever needs, so that the other people who don't need it don't get disturbed. But for subtitling also, as in, do you think we can do it in a way that would be palatable to everyone in the same fashion? I would be keen to hear your thoughts on this. Not because, I mean, I don't think that we need to sell ourselves to the able-bodied, not at all. But practically speaking, these are the kind of objections that arise, so we need to be prepared to deal with them.
Yeah. So I think good question, Rahul. So in fact, this was an objection even the industry had kind of said, like, that. So see, basically, we are at a point. So this also brings to the difference between closed captioning and open captioning, right?
Okay.
So open captioning is captioning which is burnt onto the video. So when it's burnt onto the video and you telecast it, then no one can turn it off. But today, basically, broadcast is already at the point where it can show closed captioning. Set-top boxes are more or less at a space where they can support closed captioning. Now, legislation is at a place where it's saying you can have closed captioning or SLS, right? So ultimately, what you're talking about being able to make a choice, we are nearly there. If legislation comes in, television broadcast, it's definitely there. Now it's about the set-top boxes. The newer set-top boxes are supporting that, the older ones are not. So there'll be a little bit of a process. It'll take a year or two for it to fall in place. But unless that push comes in, that change will not happen. But until then, what we are suggesting, put it as open captioning, like, let it go out there, let everyone enjoy it. And our research has shown more than 90% of the viewers like same language subtitling. And this is not the hearing impaired, this is 90% of the viewers across.
In general.
Right? So you have a very strong support for this. And this, we are talking about very detailed research we have done over the last 20 odd years, where we have repeatedly found this, that over 90% of the viewers like this. And there are always going to be, for any kind of intervention you do, there'll be a small percentage of people who will find it inconvenient, which is fair enough. But till technology catches up, let's not say that, that unless and until we have 100% technology in place, we should not have closed captioning or same language subtitling, right? Let's get started there. More than 90% of the people are supporting it, so let's do it.
Yeah.
So even you would say, sorry,
Please,
go
Rahul,
on.
go ahead.
No, please.
So there was a similar question from one of the audience. So I thought this was a good point to maybe highlight that question as well, possibly. But Rahul, if you have any unfinished.
Yeah, just one thing. So for movie theaters, Nirav, like practically then what we would need to do is to get like a PVR as well as the studio that is making that movie, whatever it is. Let's say it's Star, whatever the platform that Star runs is. Like, let's say they are making it,
Hotstar.
or like Hotstar or Balaji Telefilms or whoever it is who's making it. We just get them to say that, look, number one, you must ensure that you have your content, that you provide subtitling with your content, and number two, the theaters must come on board to say that we will make it available when a movie is screened in our theater. Those are the two main actors, right?
Yeah. So in all honesty, I will say that basically having it in theaters right now is a little bit of a far shot, and there is no policy which has been defined for that, right? The policy right now is very specific to television, and we are hoping to extend it to
Streaming
OTT
platforms
and streaming, right?
Yeah.
So I think theaters is a little bit of a different one, and theater also the experience is slightly different. I have seen them put subtitling. It's usually been so. So what happens is in South India, usually for the first couple of weeks, they will show it without subtitles. Then in the third week onwards, they'll add English subtitles. So very clearly, they have understood the need is that there are a lot of people who want to watch these movies, but they don't know the local language, so they will add English subtitles for that. So in theater, basically adding subtitling as an option is very much there. Amir Khan had done it for his movies, but they all came with English subtitles. So English subtitling on theaters has definitely happened. Same language subtitling or closed captioning, I don't know till now. I don't think it's happened. But very honestly, that's not the battle I'm saying we need to really fight right away. It's a much harder battle. I think if we can get television to do it, get OTT to do it, most of the people consume their entertainment right away there. And also all the movies will ultimately go on to television and OTT. So at that point, they will definitely come with SLS or closed captioning. So I would say, and then maybe the next one is we can look at is theater after that. But let's get at least TV and OTT to do it first.
But one thing that I think, and I would love to, Nirav, correct me on this, but one thing that Billion Readers Bird is doing is we're trying to look at those levers at the systemic levels, right? And one of the levers is CFBC, right? Like Center of Film Board Certification. And ensuring that there is a system in place at CFBC level where they say that, movies producers need to have SLS on their movies. So if that lever gets moved, I believe then building on that, SLS movies coming or an accessible movies coming in theater would be possible as well. But yes, it is a bit of a far shot given where the industry willingness stand today.
Sure, yeah. So we did have a couple of questions, but I think we are really pressed for time here because it's close to 6:15 and we have a second set of panel right after this. What I can promise our audience for sure is that'll be great if you can possibly email us once, and we'll try to direct these questions directly to the panelists, and I'll make it a point to get back to you. I'm very sorry we are very short on time here, and this kind of engagement is automatically showing that there is interest in the conversation that we are having. So thanks for that. If I may, again, I'd like to summarize some of the important discussions and pointers which have happened here. This has, of course, been very informative. We have not seen a lot of discussion happening on subtitling and industry and the confluence of both of these things. So it's a very unique conversation that way. We've been talking about that subtitling in itself, as Preeti ma'am was saying, that subtitling in itself is not enough. It has to have sign language interpretation or other things as well to make it more comprehensive. And at the same time, subtitling, on the other hand, is not just for accessibility. It has a lot of other nuances for a lot of other target groups and target audience. So it's serving more than one purpose at any given time. So that's definitely a big takeaway. What we also taking from what Surbhi said, it's a low hanging fruit. It's right in front of us. Streaming platforms, some of the streaming platforms have already taken it. It's just a matter of institutionalizing it, which can only happen once there is like a legal push to make it happen. Again, it seems to be in the direction, but we don't know when it's going to happen. So that's something we'll have to track. And the third very important thing is that everybody here is an equal consumer of all the content that is being made available to people at large. So in that case, same language subtitling or even accessibility is an integral right and shouldn't just be an afterthought in any of the conversations that we are having. And as a final remark, I'd like to re-emphasize that we as a group are committed to such initiatives, and we would absolutely love to hear from other people who are working in this field or are either interested in this field. Because as Surbhi was saying, that it's just a matter of bringing different kinds of strength and making a push towards making this happen in the first place, in terms of subtitling, in terms of audio description, in terms of accessibility overall. Again, I'd close the conversation with this, but I would love to be in touch with all of you, all the audience. Please feel free to write either to Vidhi or to Bird. And I'd like to thank all the panelists who have given their time to be here today. Preeti ma'am, thank you for turning up on such a short notice. Like, we're very grateful that you're here. And Preeti and Atul, as always, you've been there for all the events, and we couldn't thank you enough for all the help that you've done. For the rest of the audience, this will be followed by a second panel discussion, which Rahul will be moderating. Please feel free to join that as well. And thanks everyone for being here today.
Thank you.
Thank you.